Greetings everyone, I am Dr. Wolf, and recently I felt compelled to go back and watch some of the season 1 episodes again to compare just how far the show had come over its many years. And yeah, it's been quite a long time since I've gone back and visited some of these original episodes. Naturally, it's pretty easy to notice just how much the animation has grown, because comparing a scene from season 1 and a scene from season 9, you can tell that the character models, the backgrounds, and especially the variety that the animators add to each scene has certainly improved. But looking back at these original scenes, I just had this wave of nostalgia wash over me. Because when I first watched these episodes, that was back, 2012? Before I made any videos for YouTube? And I was genuinely curious exactly how well each of these episodes hold up after so many years. Plus, I wanted to see exactly how much my opinions have changed since my early days of making YouTube videos. Thus, I wanted to put together a list of my top picks for MLP Season 1 now that the show has come to an end. And while it was really hard for me to narrow that list down to just 5, even the ones that didn't make the cut are still very well worth watching even after so many years. But let's start things off with number 5. I don't care how many times I watch that scene, it's always gonna make me crack up. Now, Party of One is not what I'd consider a grand episode by any means. It's a very simple story. In fact, much of it is very predictable. You can see the lesson coming from a mile away, and yeah, you can tell exactly what the rest of the main 6 are doing while Pinkie Pie is trying to make sense of things. But with all of that said, these are some classic lines. These are some memeable expressions. And oh my goodness, watching Pinkie Pie chase Rainbow Dash all throughout Ponyville, and then watching Applejack do her utmost of attempting to lie. I'm sorry, that still cracks me up even after all this time. But let's be honest, the most famous scene by a long shot is when we get to see Pinkie Pie having a party with various inanimate objects. And I really have to hand it to Andrea Libman here. This is some top-notch voice acting when you can tell it is Pinkie Pie's voice, yet at all these different pitches and inflections. So you can easily tell, oh, this is the bag of flour talking. Oh, this is the rocks talking. And wait, what am I talking? This is rocks. It's such a great scene, even if it is just a tad creepy, or maybe even just a little more than a tad creepy. It is classic in every sense, and definitely deserves to be among the best of season 1. Number 4.
Yay! Oh. Too loud.
Oh, Goodness Fluttershy. I don't know how many times over the years I've heard bronies quote that exact scene verbatim, and it's still funny. It's still so memorable. But aside from that, this is the first time we get to see Rainbow Dash pursuing her lifelong dream of becoming a Wonderbolt. And seeing where she ended up by the end of the series and comparing to where she started, it actually gives me some new perspective on her character. Because the sonic rainboom itself, that is one of the most memorable aspects of her entire character, for both kids and adults. Now, not everything in this episode has aged all that well. I still think each of the scenes with the pony bullies is very one-dimensional and basically just trying to drive the conflict forward. It's very predictable, it's pretty one note, but that is easily offset by Rarity. I mean, she is very full of herself, and that makeup, it's one of those moments where it's both beautiful and grotesque at the same time. But she is very over the top in this episode. So even though Fluttershy's "yay" is probably the most famous line from this episode, it's kind of hard to forget Rarity's how many times have you heard that noise in brony videos over the years? It's still a great story despite some one-note characters and full of very memorable scenes. Number 3.
Now your prince is sure to find you. Let's go!
If there was ever any episode of My Little Pony that was the perfect anti-Disney princess story, this is it. I mean, this is taking Cinderella and turning it on its head in this one scene. I like the fact that even though this has been built up throughout the entirety of the season, beginning with episodes like Ticketmaster and further developed by episodes like Suited for Success, there was a lot of build-up and a lot of the audience expected that each pony would get to do what they wanted most. I mean, that's what cartoon shows like this do, right? But no, the writers are not afraid to throw a wrench into every one of our expectations. Basically, everything that can go wrong will go wrong, and it is glorious to watch. It makes it that much more memorable because everything ends in a disaster. And who would have thought that Spike's idea of what he wanted for the evening most is really what every character learned to be the best way to spend such an evening. And then of course, there's the song. This is easily the grandest song in all of Season 1, involving so many different characters and so many different instruments, and everything's in a bombastic chorus, and it's so memorable. It is such a treat. And of course, who could forget a scene like this? Who would have thought we'd see that side of Fluttershy right near the beginning of the show? Hi! Number 2. I will always be thoroughly impressed with the Cutie Mark Chronicles because they managed to fit 6 origin stories into one episode, and yet it feels so natural. None of this feels rushed at all. I mean, each of these stories has enough material that you could fit into an episode by themselves, and we probably would have enjoyed it. And yet, wrapping it all around the CMC trying to figure out how they can get their cutie marks is not only giving them something to look forward to, but also adding a nice twist in that each of the main 6 found their destinies through the first Sonic Rainboom. And that's a nice touch, especially so early in the show. You could have easily stretched these 6 origin stories to an episode here and an episode there over this season and that season, and finally culminating in, oh, they've always been destined to be together. Instead, putting it all in one episode, and yet making it feel so natural, and giving such a touching moment at the end with the CMC along for the ride, knowing what we know now with how everything comes together at the end, it makes this all the more touching, and is absolutely one of the best entries in all of Season 1. Now, I had a hard time narrowing this list down to just 5. Winter Wrap-Up is easily the catchiest song in all of Season 1, and if you play it at any Brony convention ever, you are going to get quite a crowd of people singing right along. Green Isn't Your Color is quite a good lesson episode that focuses on the relationship between Fluttershy and Rarity. And yeah, it actually leads to a nice moment right at the end. But adding Twilight and Pinkie Pie to come along for the ride in the background, and especially with Pinkie trying to get Twilight to stick to her pinky promise, it's still entertaining. Even so many years after the fact, it is still entertaining. And then of course there's the Season 1 premiere. It was a great setup for the world and introducing each character in quick succession and allowing each of them a moment to shine. It's a pretty good way to start a series off. However, I still believe that the best episode of MLP Season 1 is...
Idea! I'll make you an outfit for the Gala 2 Rainbow Dash. Outfit for the what now?
Now, when I first watched My Little Pony back in 2012, I certainly thought that Suited for Success had a lot going for it. The song is very well done. There are some truly hilarious moments, and yeah, the double lesson at the end is actually really effective. But looking back now, I have a much deeper appreciation for not only what this was setting up towards the Season 1 finale, but also having worked with various artists and animators and editors over the years since starting my YouTube channel, I have to believe that this episode really hits the mark. When dealing with customers who don't know what they want or keep being indecisive, thinking more in terms of function over form, there's all kinds of ways in which creative individuals can get overwhelmed with stress for various projects they've been commissioned on. There is so much more that I could say about this episode in particular, but I honestly think I do want to save that for another video. But looking at Rarity's journey in particular, she was not my favorite character starting out. Fluttershy has always been the one that I related to most, and yet I truly felt for what Rarity went through. I was certainly entertained by the very first Rarity meltdown in the entirety of My Little Pony, and I am thoroughly impressed with the voice work of Tabitha St. Germain, especially during this scene. But listening to the song Art of the Dress, it almost sounds like the writers, the animators, the artists, the production staff of My Little Pony themselves. Even Lauren Faust, who, while she wasn't the writer for this episode, certainly expressed a lot of what she wanted from this story. Listening to the Art of the Dress song is showing just how hard it can be for creative individuals working in such an industry. And yeah, that actually carries a lot more weight now that I've seen how far the show has come and worked with so many bronies in the community over the years. While Suited for Success may not be the most entertaining episode of Season 1, I certainly had a lot more fun watching Party of One and even Sonic Rainboom at points. I have a lot more respect for Suited for Success than any other entry in all of the first season of the show. I may not have thought it was the greatest way back in the day, but nowadays, I have to admit, Suited for Success has a lot more going for it than I initially realized. But then, what did each of you think of MLP Season 1? Which entries are your favorites and why? What aspects of an episode to you really raise it above the competition? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And if you'd like me to come up with a top 5 list of any other seasons, please let me know. Because as always, I am Dr. Wolf, and I look forward to hearing from you.